And this is the way in which, obviously, the US is kept, the people of the US are kept in a state of fear. And of course, then the reality shows. You know, the classic expectation in the US of the government is that the people get up, put on the TV, get their dose of morning bullshit, have their breakfast, go down to work at Walmart or McDonald's or KFC or whatever, do their 8 hours, go to a sports bar, go home, switch on the TV, get another dose of bullshit, and then go to bed. The whole idea is not to think, not to question. And it's moving towards a situation where if you do question it, you run the risk of having everything you've got confiscated. And the TV shows, I mean, look at what's going on in the UK right now. I mean, we're following hard on the footsteps of what's occurred in the US. Why? Because it was so successful in the US, so let's bring it over to the UK. I mean, the TV shows are absolutely mind-numbing. You know, and not that I make a habit of it, but I mean, you walk into a pub and I mean, you know, there's all this shit going on in the world, and what are people talking about? You know, what's going on in Corrie, or EastEnders, or Big Brother? I mean, the front line of the papers today, and two of them, the headline is about one of the soap stars caught taking coke. Kel surprise. This tool is absolutely destroying society. You know, people, I mean, we heard speakers through the weekend talking about people getting into the alpha state when they're watching the TV. You know, it's the stuff that's being pumped into the subconscious. You know, those who don't watch TV and those who don't read newspapers know a damn sight more than those who do. And the next stage in the game is to get people into debt. Now, this has been a strategy for the last 10 years. I'm not going to ask anybody to put their hands up if you fall into these categories, because tragically, many of you will. And this has been a sustained strategy since Tony Blair came to power, starting with the students. Up until 97, students basically could get a free education. This government will claim that more young people have had the opportunity to go to college and university in their tenure than any previous government. Technically, that's not exactly a lie, but that was never the objective. The objective was to get the kids to go to college, to get them into debt. The average debt for a student in this country today is £9,000. The average debt for a student that's completed their degree course is £15,000, which just goes to show how many people haven't actually completed their degree course. It's a staggering number. So, of course, once the student comes out of college, they've got this psychological millstone of 15K plus around their neck. My daughter finished her degree course and she wanted to go traveling. And I said, well, that's great. I said, you know, go. She said, yeah, but what about my student debt? I said, don't worry, it'll still be there when you come back. And of course, the credit card situation is unbelievable. You know, a little while ago, my wife dragged me along to, I think it's Blue Water, over around the M25. I mean, first of all, it's built in a quarry. It's like a black hole, you know. But we're walking around it, and I think it's built in a triangle. And I walked around and I suddenly realized I was sort of walking in the same spot I'd already walked in. And I just stopped. My wife was just walking in front of me and I just laughed. And she said, what are you laughing at? I said, do you realize there is nothing in this mall that anybody needs? Nothing. Yet the parking lot was absolutely packed. I said, you know, what's going on here? I said, you know, here we've got masses of people coming here to buy shit they don't need with money they don't have and to pay 30% interest for the privilege. With money that didn't even exist in the first place, but that's another story. And then, of course, we've got this artificial pumping up of house prices. I mean, if you're a house owner, you know, clearly you have done very well out of this. But the nature of the beast here was to get the young people, certainly in the age range of 20 through to mid-40s, to get them to buy bigger and bigger houses, get bigger and bigger mortgages, So that basically they have less and less disposable income and therefore less and less freedom. And with interest rates going even higher, they pump this into the news because what they want, this is actually probably the PR agencies of those companies offering fixed rate mortgages. It's like, come and get the fixed rate mortgage now and avoid the higher interest rates. But, we are heading for disaster here. Paulden touched on it already today. I'm not going to have the time to discuss it right now. I'm actually going to give a talk in Totnes in a couple of months on the myth of peak oil. Peak oil is a complete and utter myth. It's brilliant. It's so plausible, it's brilliant, that the vast majority of people who are aware of the term have bought into it. And the purpose is to subconsciously prepare you for the fact that you're going to be paying £1 a litre plus to fill up your car. Let me tell you that just 8 years ago, in 1999, the price of a barrel of oil was $9.81. Nothing has changed except the artificial pumping up of the price of a barrel of oil. Who's making the profit? Look at the profitability of all the oil companies in the last 5 years. Dick Cheney is made out like a bandit because of Halliburton stock pricing increasing by fivefold. But we're heading for the crash. It started in the US. Many people, if there's anybody here from the US, you'll already be aware of this. But it started in the US, and it will follow here. It will follow here. It will be a deliberate ploy to create a situation where people are sitting on negative equity, and so reducing the freedom even more. And of course, if this wasn't enough, the final nail in the coffin was to decimate pensions. 10 years ago, the average person who'd worked in the sort of corporate environment for 30 to 40 years could realistically look at retiring on a full pension in this country, which is 2/3 your final salary, a full pension probably in the early 60s. Today, to get that same deal, you've got to work until you're 72. So at every level, the strategy has been to remove the opportunity for you, the wider population, to probe at what's going on, to look any deeper than the surface information that you're getting through the media. A little bit of history, the New World Order, very important to the link today. Hitler was inducted into the Tula Society in 1919 by a guy called Dietrich Eckart. A great book to read here is a book written by Louis Pauls and Jacques Bergier in 1958. And these guys did some tremendous research into the role that Dietrich Eckart played in getting Hitler to effectively play the puppet role of leader of the National Socialist Party. They investigated and they dug up the records and private diaries of Dietrich Eckart taking Hitler into the Bavarian forest and going through the peyote ceremonies. Hitler was often on stage giving his oratory. He would come off stage, collapse in a heap at the bottom of the steps in a cold sweat, almost sort of shake as though he was coming round, and then say, "How was it?" Many scholars believe that Hitler was actually sort of possessed while he was going through that process. The SS, as part of the National Socialists under Himmler, had a group called the Ahnenerbe. Then the Ahnenerbe was that group within the SS that was responsible for esoteric research. The National Socialists were very, very conscious of the fact that there was some esoteric technology available. All they had to do was go find it and, of course, use it for their own purposes. And they had a number of forays into Tibet. In fact, anybody see the film here, 7 Years in Tibet? Yeah. The character that Brad Pitt played was based on a true story of one of the Ahnenerbe who went to Tibet to do the research. The war broke out, and he ended up staying in Tibet for the duration, actually became a close confidant of the Dalai Lama. Now, the Ahnenerbe were very, very successful in their research, and such authors like Nick Cook, in his book, The Hunt for Zero Point, has done a lot of excellent investigative work into what technology the National Socialists were able to develop.